What bird have we here? Well, that's the favorite question of birders everywhere, especially here on Twits and Pishers.
Hello birders and welcome to Regina, the capital city of the province of Saskatchewan. That's the Saskatchewan Legislature building in behind me and Wascana Lake. And today I'll be birding with Carol Patterson, a high school biology teacher and a very enthusiastic birder. We'll be heading out onto the open prairie, but before we do that, I think we'll check around this park area. We arrived to some terrible weather and a severe thunderstorm warning, but things seem to be clearing off, and I'm sure that we'll have a good time here in Saskatchewan. I've got to tell you, though, I was reading some literature on birding here in the Regina area. They say that in midwinter you can walk around this park and spend hours trying to find a single bird that is not a house sparrow. But we're here in mid-August, so there's got to be something here that will interest us. So let's have a look around here first and then see what we can find.
Regina is southern Saskatchewan's largest urban center, and Last Mountain Lake is only a short drive away, at least the south end of it is.
Oh, brown thrasher.
Yeah,
Very good.
right down in the bushes, flipping over some leaves on the ground, looking for some bugs.
That's such a rich color to that bird.
Very, very nice rusty
I like them.
stripes on the breast.
They're always so secretive, though, aren't they?
Very secretive,
Yeah.
very elusive.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think, it's a good prairie bird, but you always find it in these shrubby or parky type situations.
That's right. They're a hard
Yeah.
bird to get a clear view at, actually. A hard bird to get a clear photo at.
Do you have a photo?
Well, they're iffy. They're
Mhm.
far away. They're hidden beneath the shrubbery. This is a bird, John, I've wanted for a very long time. I've wanted this bird in here.
All right. Well, why don't I hang back and you can sneak up on it and see how you do.
All right. Sounds good. Wish me luck.
Good luck. Like a jungle cat.
At Last Mountain Lake, Carol and I were immediately treated to some good looks at cedar waxwings and then to an unexpected surprise.
What do we got here?
I think I hear a marsh wren.
I think you do too. I do too. It's in there somewhere.
It's in the reeds,
You
right?
always hear marsh wrens, but you never see marsh wrens.
Rarely see a marsh wren.
This one sounds a bit peculiar to me too. It's not doing that usual sort of steady sewing machine noise.
The old-fashioned sewing machine. It's got a little bit of a bubbly voice. A little bit different from the others that I've heard.
I've never heard an old-fashioned sewing machine. I have no idea what they sound like.
It sounds exactly like a marsh
That's
wren.
the only thing I know about them. Oh wait, there's some movement in the reeds back there.
Yeah, I see it too. Maybe we'll get a chance to see this one.
Oh, I can see a couple of feathers worth anyway.
Yeah. That's about all I've ever seen.
Exactly.
There it is.
Oh, it's coming out. What the heck?
There it is.
Wonderful. Look, you can see the eye stripe,
Yeah,
buffy sides.
yeah.
It's a handsome bird.
It's a marsh wren. Look at that right out in the
Well,
open.
isn't that typical too? I've had that happen with other species of birds where you're used to not being able to see them, like, great blue herons or soras or something, and then you go somewhere you've never been before,
And you
and
just
they're
see
all
them.
nice and tame, like this. Look there, and there's another one over there. They're everywhere. I like wrens. Wrens have tons of personality.
They do. This
Yeah.
one looks, it's doing a little characteristic bobbing.
Knee bends.
Yeah, and every once in a while you can I can see the little, or hear the little peeps.
I wonder why they're so noisy so late in the season. They must be finished with the breeding territorial thing, don't you think?
Would they still hold a little bit of a territory?
I know nothing
feeding,
about
perhaps?
mushrooms. Yeah. Well, it's certainly nice to hear them.
Can't
Good
believe
stuff.
I'm seeing it.
I'm starting to like this Saskatchewan birding thing.
It's very nice. A marsh wren.
Good stuff.
The marsh wrens were a good find, and we wondered later if we were seeing young ones that hadn't quite perfected their calls yet. But the next few hours were a bit dull as we drove across the flat ancient lake bed that now supports so much of Saskatchewan's wheat farming and not much else.
Well, these are the first birds we've seen in an hour's worth of driving from Regina, so let's enjoy them. The basic roadside pond type Saskatchewan secondary highway birding. What do you think?
Well, we found some action, some shorebird action.
Yeah.
Take a look.
Couple of dowitchers. 4.
Yeah.
I don't even like to guess whether these are long-billed or short-billed dowitchers.
No.
I'm always so unsure of
Well,
myself when it comes to
Dowitchers
dowitchers.
is good enough, I think.
Sure.
I was always taught to identify dowitchers, other than the long bill, with their feeding pattern. And dowitchers, I was told, do a sewing action, a needle and thread, much like a
Yeah.
mechanical sewing machine.
The old-fashioned sewing machine. Let's have a look.
Well, I don't know if it's the old-fashioned one.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
They're really rusty on the underbelly.
Yes, very.
I can't
very red.
see the streaking on the sides well enough. You know, I have this theory that I just invented this theory just moments ago, in fact. The dowitchers look like sewing machines, and the marsh wrens sound like sewing machines. So perhaps this is how the sewing machine was invented. You know, pioneers sitting around, nothing to do, just, sewing away, looking out at their ditch ponds, and then suddenly it just goes, oh, hey!
Mechanical sewing.
Invented the sewing machine, inspired by nature.
Indeed.
Oh yeah, undoubtedly true.
So-
What do we have over there? We have another shorebird. Yellowlegs, is it a lesser or a greater? Fairly heavy bill.
Yeah, longer than the head itself.
Looks like
A
greater yellowlegs. There you go. Well, I guess that's all the birding we're going to get out of this
Yeah.
ditch pond here.
Doing some last ditch birding.
Very good, very good. We should go on to Stalwart now, the Stalwart Wildlife Refuge Area place. Well, one thing I truly believe in, and I know Carol agrees with me on this, is you should never use the index on your field guide. If you need to look up a bird, just flip through the book until you come to the right section, and that way you are continually reviewing the classification of birds and the standard order that all the bird books use. They're not alphabetical. Now, let's demonstrate this. I know you agree with me, but you use your index, and I'll flip, and we'll have a little bird race here.
A little showdown.
Yeah, spot us a bird out on Wascana Lake here.
All right. The first bird I see is a red-necked grebe.
Easy,
Grebe. G. Grebe for G.
And the grebe, ha,
Quite
there it is.
weird.
Page 21,
yep.
redneck grebe.
21.
Oh, shouldn't have told her the page.
21. There it is. Red-neck grebe.
And in those few extra seconds, we could have spotted 3, 4 more species.
Perhaps.
What do you say, about a year of confusion to gain
through?
mastery of your field guide?
Yes, but it saves a lot of time
It
in the
does.
long run.
And it makes you feel good. No index, just rip it off, throw it away.
That's right. The little tabs on the side, they'll last a couple days.
You tried the tab thing?
I did try the tab.
Yeah, the
Yeah, it was a
tabs are
crazy
writing
birdie.
little lines on the side.
Doesn't
Just
work.
learn the order. I mean,
That's
that's
right.
why you're
Flipping
doing
through.
birding anyway, to learn something.
Get the
Why
little
not?
thumb marks on the side. Good.
Very good.
The Stalwart Wildlife Refuge is a typical spot for prairie waterbirds in the sense that it is largely flat, that there are plenty of birds here and that you can't get close to any of them. We lingered for a while, identifying the odd duck or gull, but soon decided that better birding might lay ahead at the north end of Last Mountain Lake. We might have been tempted to identify every bird had we been here in the springtime, but on a windy day in August, we were happy to simply admire the big prairie skies. This is the easiest prairie hawk to identify. I first learned to watch for the dark head and bib, and years later realized that the Swainson's hawk is the only species with dark flight feathers and a white wing lining, the opposite of all other soaring hawks in Canada. And how about this one? An all-white underside should be a clue, as are the rusty patches on the shoulders. When it flies, you can see the dark legs, typical of the ferruginous hawk, the largest hawk on the prairies if you don't count the golden eagle. Our final destination was the Last Mountain Lake Wildlife Refuge, one of the classic waterbird meccas of the Canadian prairies. By the time we got here, we were quite convinced that there are no mountains anywhere near Last Mountain Lake, but then we didn't see the Queen in Regina either. These minor disappointments vanished when we came upon a short-eared owl in the grass that was just a bit too skittish to allow us a good close look. Then down by the lake, yet another bird of prey gave us what was probably the most intriguing sighting of the trip.
Well, this is quite a scene, isn't it?
Yes, what is that?
It looks like a young northern harrier with something.
Incredible. It's caught a prey and it's tearing it apart.
Isn't that something? Plucking feathers, eating the breast meat, very typical raptor behavior.
Right here in front of us.
That's very neat. It's always nice to see a bird doing what it's supposed to. Although, usually you see harriers low over the marshes, picking up frogs and smaller rodents and things like that.
Yeah, this is big.
I don't know if a harrier has enough power to take some sort of waterfowl like that.
So perhaps it didn't kill it?
Don't know. Don't know. It's a young harrier, too, and you wouldn't think they would be the best hunters.
Yeah. I wonder what it's got there.
I don't know. Boy, it's really
Tearing it apart.
chowing down, though.
Wow.
You gotta admit that. Oh, and here's another bird to the left coming in.
I got it.
Heron.
It's
What's
a-
it?
Yeah. Black-crowned night heron.
Young night heron.
Yeah. Looks like it wants a little piece of the dinner. Oh,
Well, that's neat. I wouldn't imagine the heron would be able to, pull apart a carcass like that with its bill. But you never know. It's a pretty strong-billed critter.
Nor do I think the harrier would give it any.
Perhaps we'll see one of those dramatic battles of nature that
Wouldn't be a fight that lasts very long.
probably not going to happen either.
No.
That's still kind of neat, though.
Yeah.
Oh, there you can see it. It's a scaup. The dead one is a scaup.
Oh, yeah, black and white feathers there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
How about that?
We can add that to our list.
Absolutely. I can't remember the official listing rules. I'm not up on them, but I do take this listing business very seriously. So.
Well, yes, and it was once alive. It was alive a few moments ago.
And it's still a scaup.
It is.
Just because it's missing most of the front of its body, it's still a scaup.
Fair. Great.
Big scoop out of that scaup, you might say. Terrible.
Oh, that's nice.
It's difficult to avoid morbid humor when confronted with nature's grisly side, but the fact is that life for such creatures as night herons and harriers is a violent business indeed. American white pelicans, on the other hand, seem so much more peaceful, since they only eat fish, and for whatever reason, we humans rarely feel sorry for fish. Personally, I'm glad to see them recovering from an alarming drop in population a few decades ago. But now that they are common again, they are developing a bad reputation among fishermen who see them as a fish-eating pest. The fishermen don't feel sorry for the fish, they feel sorry for themselves. On the other hand, fisheries biologists I know say pelicans are not a pest, but that probably won't be enough to save the reputation of these magnificent birds. I especially like pelicans because they have been used as an analog for what the giant pterosaurs might have been like during the days of the dinosaurs. Huge, soaring creatures with massive bills for scooping fish from the water. I can no longer look at a pelican without seeing a shadow of pteranodon reflected in the water below. That might seem like an odd thought for Saskatchewan, but 70 million years ago this spot was home to oceans and pterosaurs, not lakes and pelicans. As the sun was about to set, we finally came upon the bird for which Last Mountain Lake is best known. The Sandhill crane. The sight of thousands of these birds high in the air is common on the prairies, but never so many on the ground. There were about 500 in this group, and not only that, some of them were dancing to one another. The dances of cranes and the dances of people have often been compared, but until you see the birds doing it, the comparison seems silly.
You know, most of the people in North America, and therefore most of the birders, live either on the west coast or the east coast, and there the birding is made exciting by the presence of vagrants, birds blown off course from Europe or Asia. But the closer you get to the center of the continent, and especially in the prairies, the fewer vagrants you see. You have to rely on the expected rarities for excitement rather than the unexpected. In Saskatchewan, you watch the skies twice a year for that great rarity, the whooping crane. And although our chances of seeing one are just about zero, it does keep things a bit more exciting.
Why don't we check out these gulls on the beach?
Yeah, let's do it. There's a lot of gulls.
I mean, if in doubt, watch gulls on the beach. That's the way I look at it. So what do we got here? It's always an easy thing to say.
Well, it's not just gulls. That's the first thing.
Gulls and terns.
Gulls and terns.
Excellent. Well, let's start with the gulls. Are all the big white-headed gulls ringbills? I think so.
No, I think there are a few there that do not have the ring. They could be either.
Oh, out in the water there.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
With the red spot
California.
on their beak. California or herring, I suppose.
Yeah. Boy, it's hard to say without seeing the leg color.
And then there's the big dark brown ones. Juveniles of.
Oh, yes, right, yeah. Big muddy-looking juvenile ringbills,
I
and
think so.
Lots of Franklin's gulls with the darker heads and,
the eye ring.
White eye ring.
Yeah.
I like the fact that some of them still have that kind of rosy color on the underside. Would you call that rosy? Would you call it pink?
That's rosy.
Maybe it's peachy
Or
rosy.
peachy.
Peachy, pinky rosy.
Sure. That's kind of nice.
It's lovely.
Maybe even rusty.
Rusty, peachy,
That's.
pinky
Do you
rosy?
think that's from the? Are those adults then that have the?
I think so. I think it's a.
Could
You know,
that
they
be from
get it in
water?
the breeding plumage. It might be.
It's not from the water though.
I don't think so. I think it's
No.
from the food. I
Like
think it's
it's-
like the Ross's gull. You know, everyone's so excited about the Ross's gull having some pink in
Yes.
it. These guys have pink too.
Yeah, those are the Franklins. Yeah,
Okay, now how about these terns?
yeah. I'd say there's quite a few common terns out there.
Yes, common terns, most certainly.
There's
I'll
common
just check
terns.
the book in case. Very difficult to tell those common and Forster's terns
Well,
apart
there
now.
might be a few Forsters.
I just don't have much practice at this either.
It's a tough one.
Okay, common tern. And it doesn't really... oh, that's right. It doesn't show the winter plumage because they don't molt into the winter
Until they
plumage
get
until
to
they
their
leave.
wintering habitat.
The juveniles have a dark back of the neck. And the Forsters, juveniles have a light back of the neck, the nape, and a
Frosty tips. on the
frosty
wings.
wingtips, and a mask through the eye.
Okay, so there's the mask on the Forster's juvenile, and a mask and a dark nape.
On the common, and
On the
a dark
common.
wing bar on the...
And there's no dark wing bar on the Forsters.
This should be a piece of cake. I already
Okay.
have this feeling that we are dead wrong.
Glasses up.
Yes. Identification in progress. I believe we are looking at Forster's tern here. Don't you think? That's tricky stuff.
After sorting out the gulls and terns, Carol and I watched a semi-palmated sandpiper strolling along the beach. Behind it, a spotted sandpiper that was spotless at this time of year was perched on a wave-tossed boulder. In the air, hundreds of Franklin's gulls were feeding on insects, and we soon found the source of the frenzy: winged ants emerging from their colonies ready for what they hoped would be their mating flight. As you can tell by the sound in the background, we have now returned to the home of the marsh wrens. And there's the list for this episode. Not a bad list for about midsummer and about mid-continent, with the total slowly creeping up there.
Well, there you have it, mid-August birding in southern Saskatchewan. Not a lot of people do it, but I hope you'll agree it was worth the effort. Before we sign off, though, I've got to tell you, a lot of people have been asking me things like, hey, did you really see that bird? So I have to tell you how we make these shows. We go birding for 2 days. We take along a television camera that has about the same magnification power as a 10-power pair of binoculars. And my opinion is, if we can find these birds, you can find them too. We're not buying stock footage from other photographers. Things that we show you on these shows are actually things that we've seen ourselves. So give it a go if you like any of these locations. Try them out for yourself. And I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be in the midst of the fall migration. It should be a real spectacle. Until then, happy birding, and we'll see you again. Bye now.